that we're dealing with. Most of us have someone that we know with this illness. And unfortunately, this is ending the Autism Awareness Month, not kicking it off. But again, that means that you can take this forward to the next month. Just a couple of quick announcements, and we'll show it, that we'll take questions after the presentation just to allow the flow of the presentation. Secondly, next month, Barbara Reynolds will be talking about caregivers and communication with Alzheimer's disease. So another really significant topic. Now I am so pleased to introduce our neighbor, Ann Sheridan, who with the Diversity and Belonging Committee really came forward and asked about sharing this information and her wealth of experience over 30-some years with her wonderful John, Rob, Mary, and William, yes, and their mothers, Claudia, Luann, and Linda. So please welcome them all, and then Ann, take it away.
First of all, I will have to make a slight correction. I'm Sue Sheridan, but I always answer to Ann. She was a little bit before my time, I think. I think that's quite a compliment. And I am so pleased that you are here. Thank you so much for coming. When we thought about Autism Awareness and Appreciation Month, I thought the best way to share this would be with the real people who have autism and their parents who have helped them be the successful, wonderful people they are today. So better than me just talking about it, which I'll do a little bit anyway because I always have to, but I'll have the people who are the real experts in this area share with you their gifts and their successes and some of the challenges that they've had also. And I want to tell you, look at all these people. They've come because you are here. That's why they've come. And we are so really a gift that they can come and have willingly and are looking forward to it. And we'll ask them about what the best part of it is. And I kind of have a feeling I already know. We've done that before. So are there any people that are here because they're relatives? I think not. We were going to have some brothers and sisters, people that were on the panel, but I know we have relatives in the audience of people with autism. And yes, right, thank you. We are interested in learning about autism spectrum disorders, and we're going to talk about the spectrum because autism is not just one thing. That's what makes it so complex and difficult for us to find causes and all of that, but we'll go into that just a bit as we go on. We've asked that you write down your questions on the cards, and then we will answer them later because the flow needs to flow. I'm also going to ask that the cell phones are silenced. Sometimes that throws some of us off, and we don't want to deal with that right now. So if you hold your questions, write them on the card, and then if there's a special person that you want to answer the question, just write their names, and we'll show you pictures of who they are, and they will answer. And Rob has said, Rob, didn't you say you would do a video or something?
What about a video of, like, for those that did not get their question answered or something, you could share that with us, and then we can, like, if you ask us a specific question, like if you ask me something, I'll do the video. If you ask John a question, he'll do a video of that and then just compile it together.
Okay, and we'll compile it and he'll send it to you.
That way you get your question answered.
He's much more techy than I am. In fact, all of these people are much more techy than I am. So that's what we're going to do with the questions. The presentation is going to be in 3 parts. I'm going to do the beginning little discussion about the overview of autism, and the part that I'm really most interested in is how I got to know these people and what we've been through a bit for the last 30 years at least. So we'll talk about that. And in talking about that, these are my teachers. They teach me how to teach. They teach me all kinds of wonderful things. So we'll talk about lessons learned from the people that are in the group. It's called right now a social group. Going backwards, we called it a teen club when they were teenagers, and we had a teen club because they were in a play group. All of these people started in a play group, and we were learning how to play and going to the park. We were a little bit bigger than that, but that's what we did. Then they told me, we're too old to play. So that was true. We didn't go to the park anymore. We went to my condo and we sat in the living room. No, we sat in the dining room first, didn't we? We sat in the dining room so that we could eat sometimes, and I'll tell you about that. And then they said, we're too old to be in a teen club. No one was a teenager. All of a sudden we woke up and thought, the youngest person, Rhonda, turned 20. So we had to get a new name. So now we are a social group. And we'll be a social group for a long time. Good. And then we'll talk about what we've become. Okay, so the second part of the presentation is going to be my friends telling their thoughts, and we're going to go in the order we always go in with social group. We have the social group once a week, or once every other week. I'll tell you about that. But we go in alphabetical order by first names, because we started that 25 years ago, and we can't change it. So John is going to talk first, and then Mary, and then Rob, and then Will. That's the way we do everything. So that's the way we're doing. And if you notice, the mothers are sitting behind their sons and daughters, and there's one mother that's missing, but her picture will be here. And that's because, Rob, you want to tell you where your mom is?
My mother lives in England, but she's in Denmark right now, visiting my sister and her twin daughters who turned 1-year-old on Sunday.
Isn't that exciting? So she's a world traveler for sure. Okay, so that's the second part that we'll have today. And then the third part is my heroes. And of all the people that I've known, these are the real heroes in my life. And people will always say to me, when is the miracle going to happen? When are they going to start to talk? Or when are things going to be better? When is the miracle? The miracle is the people in the back, because they have stayed with it for all of these years, through the ups and through the downs, and they know exactly what they're doing. They have put up with all kinds of things, and we'll talk about that. But they are here loving their sons and daughters like they have from the very beginning, and working with beautiful strategies and patience, and we'll learn from them also. So my real heroes are here. And you see in the picture Rob and Jillian, his mother, and that was at one of Rob's birthday parties when we were still in the playroom. Must have been, we were in the playroom. Yeah. So that's, we have all of the parents represented there. Okay, Frankie is where? Someplace. Frankie has been supportive, generous, creative in all of this presentation. Not just in the slides, but all of the ideas and the ribbons and all of that. So she wanted to give some gifts to the parents for coming. And she wanted to give them books. And the parents said that was lovely, and they thought that was very nice, but they really have read all the books. They've read more of the books than we've ever read. And so they are generously donating the books to the library at Eagles Trace, which I thought was really nice. Yeah. And Rob has them up here. Yeah, they are great books by Temple Grandin, who is our guru for autism. She's a woman, older woman now. She's almost my age, so she's really older woman. And she's a professor of animal husbandry, and that is her profession. She has designed the stockyards, the places they take the cattle when they're going to the Golden Arches, as she says, for over half the cattle in this country, and she's known all over the world. She also has another specialty. She has autism, and she lectures, talks about, she's written 8 books, and some of them are up here. The books on this table are by Temple, and just very, very interesting. One of my favorite I'm giving to Frankie is this one. It's called A Thorn in My Pocket, and actually it's by her mother. And so comparing those, and the thorn is not Temple. That's a literary quote. So anyway, we can talk about that later. Okay, so I want to cover a few topics. Why it's called the spectrum. We call it the autism spectrum. The criterion for diagnosis. What manifests a diagnosis? And that's kind of interesting because there is no blood test. There's no test that we can do that we know absolutely that person has autism. It's a behavioral diagnosis. So that causes all kinds of problems. We'll talk about that. The main characteristics. When do we know when a person has autism or doesn't? How young can we diagnose them? Because one of the things we really do know, and everybody agrees on, is that the more engagement time you have, the better the individual does. So it's interaction. It doesn't have to be applied behavioral analysis, which is the main strategy. It doesn't have to be. It's any interaction with that child so that they stay with another person and aren't in a corner by themselves. Boys versus girls, there's more boys, 4 to 1. Boys have been diagnosed with autism, and I'll talk about why we think that. The diversity of our panel shows the diversity of people on the autism spectrum. Frankie did a trailer that was playing right before we came in, showing some real diversity of people that we all know or have heard of with autism. And most important, how we can help. What can we do to make life better for the people with autism and their families? So what is the spectrum? And this is part of, I think, the confusion about who has autism and who doesn't. It's a large spectrum of behaviors, and everybody has them at different levels. So you see one person who has, let's say, if you've seen the movie with Temple, has some modulation problems of her voice. Some have hyperactivity. Some have obsessive compulsive behaviors. We have all kinds of things. And the reason everybody's different is because they have different characteristics that are still on the spectrum, but they're different, and they're in different intensities. So people are very different. You can't say that once you've met a person with autism, then you become an expert, you know the next one, because you don't. They'll be different. But 3 things they all have in common to get the diagnosis through DSM-4, DSM-5. It's the diagnostic manual, and I have it over here on the other table, and I'll show you that later if we have time. But the 3 things that they all have in common is social interaction impairments. That's the main characteristic, is a social interaction impairment. And that's why I have a social group. That's exactly why we do it. So when they were young, we learned to play, and we learned to play not only with toys, because that's part of the teaching also, but with each other and to take turns and all of those kinds of things. They have communication challenges, and it's communication, not necessarily language or speech, but it's communication, because communication is social. You communicate with somebody else. And sensory issues. There are extreme sensory issues that are either hypersensitive to touch or to light or to hearing, and you will see that, and that's why we asked about the cell phones going off. Certain sounds, or hypo, that they don't respond to the touch or the vision. The vision is very important. You see a lot of pictures, and you'll see some in the slides, of, that's my phone.
I'm glad your alarm was going off.
Yeah, right,
I was doing this the whole time, like.
Okay. Good. The sensory issues, we're on that, right? That's a sensory issue. Okay. Behavioral issues, and some of the parents will talk about that for sure. But there are behavioral issues. I think that many of the behavioral issues come from communication problems because they can't make their wants known, and so they yell, or they grab things, or they hit, or do other things that are not social at all. Seeing things as right or wrong, no grayness. So this is very characteristic, and it makes for a problem in teaching, because we teach that you always tell the truth, right? We tell kids you always tell the truth. You always should tell the truth. Everybody should tell the truth. And then we say, well, I really liked your hair, but we know we really didn't. And so what is that? Well, it's not the truth. But if you tell the truth, you say, I really think your hair looks terrible today. That is not very social either. So these are the kind of right and wrong problems we have. The voice modulation, we'll see, and sameness is valued, to do the same thing over again, because we're very comfortable in that. And when we had the play group, we began going to Chuck E. Cheese. And then Miss Deborah, remember Miss Deborah? She was one of our helpers. She and I decided we had gone to Chuck E. Cheese 7 weeks in a row because that's where they all said they wanted to go, and we hadn't noticed it until we noticed it. So anyway, the criterion for diagnosis is the persistent deficits in social communication and interaction, and the big important thing is it's across all contexts. It's not just that they aren't social at home, or they have trouble talking when authority figures are talking to them. It's in every part of life that you have these problems. Stereotyped or repetitive behaviors, and we call it stemming sometimes. Sometimes it's rocking, sometimes it's flipping your hands, or doing things that are repetitive and non-productive. Insistence on sameness, we've talked about that. Highly restricted, fixated interests that are abnormal in intensity or focus. All young children, almost all young children, love dinosaurs, and they get all involved in dinosaurs, and you think, oh my gosh, a 5-year-old that knows how to pronounce all of the names of the dinosaurs and when they were and all of that. But that's not abnormal. That's what young kids do. It's when the interests are very abnormal, and sometimes they're just very intense. I really did have a little boy I worked with that liked vents, air conditioner vents, and so going anywhere, he would just get obsessed with the vents. His mother had a birthday cake for him with a vent on it. She really did. But she knew that's what he was interested in. Okay. The symptoms must occur in early development, but they may be masked. And we diagnose a lot of people who are older and who are in history, we say, well, that must have been autism. And then when people look back at their behavior, it's not they have to be diagnosed young, but you can look back at the behavior and say, yes, we always knew there was something that was along this line. Okay. So the caution is, once you know one person with autism, that's what you know is one person with autism. The next person will be different. Not everyone who's quirky has autism. And a lot of people say, oh, you know what, I think my husband's on this. And, they can be quirky, that's okay. We're all quirky in some ways. So I really hesitate to do this armchair diagnosis, people. Boys 4 times as much as girls, and that could be the referral. In schools, the boys get referred a lot more because of behavior problems. And we're looking for why, and that happens. It could be the diagnostic criterion as well. The social interaction problems. There's a researcher in England who talks about autism as extreme maleness. It really does. He has Simon Baron Cohen. He's a very well-renowned researcher. But he's taking the characteristics, of course, and expanding them. Okay, could be the evaluation instruments. So, what we do know is vaccines do not cause autism.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
That's absolutely true. And I wanted to just quickly read a part in Temple Grandin's mother's book that is, thank you, Rob. And she's written about Temple, and she's done research. She was a brilliant, brilliant woman. She said, researching the present state of autism, understanding how the genetics relate to all humanity, past and present, including Dick's and mine, that was Temple's father, has been a humbling and somewhat ghostly experience. Autism isn't an exotic disorder out there somewhere on its own, the fault of mercury or inoculations. That's the vaccine. She said that is not what has caused it. Autism is an exaggeration of what lies within all of us. And that's why it's so easy to diagnose everybody with autism, because it's an exaggeration to the point of non-functional, not being functional, that we all have. So I want to quickly, Frank and I did 2 slides on this one because we thought it was so important. I want to talk about the social group a little bit, or the play group that started. It started in the park, and we started because I was working with little George, and I don't think any of you knew little George. He was a boy from Switzerland. I tested him when he came over to this country in the summers, and then his father called me one day, never forget it, 6:30 in the morning, and he said, "I am going to change your life." And I said, "Okay, how?" And he said, "You're now responsible for little George." So George came over, and he lived with his grandparents, and I had him every weekend and made sure that he went to school, to a good school. He went to Briarwood, and then, anyway. I needed little George to be with other children. He was with his grandparents, with me, but I needed him to be with other children and play. It was summertime. I was teaching at the university, and I had a couple students who said, "I really want to get to know these kids you keep talking about." So it was summertime. George needed a play friends. I had help, and I thought we could start a group in the park on Saturdays, and then if it doesn't work, I can say it's only a summer program, and we can do anything for 3 months. So we did that, but that was like 45 years ago, and it's gone ever since then. Now, because my friends have lots of things to do on the weekend, we only meet every other weekend. So that's why we started. We started at the park, then we went to Kitty Wonderland. Does anybody remember Kitty Wonderland down there? Yeah, it was a neat place. And then this is part of the teaching that we did. We thought that we had cookies and things to drink in the park, but we thought they should go to restaurants. That's what other kids do this age. So we wanted them to vote. That's what you do with 7-year-olds, right? Vote. So we would have them get together, but before you can vote on anything, you have to have experience with it. So the restaurants that were in the area of the park were House of Pies, Burger King, and McDonald's. But we knew they'd always choose McDonald's. So we went to House of Pies to show them what you can get at House of Pies. You can get good food and good pies there. And then we went to Burger King, and then we went to McDonald's, and then after that, they got to choose where they go, and they would vote on it. And it was hysterical because 2 of them were nonverbal, but they still voted. And at one point, Jamie, remember Jamie?
Jamie Dean?
Yeah. He wanted to go to House of Pies, so little George was there. George was not verbal at all. And he got George and he held him on the shoulder and he said, "George, say house." house. And I thought, if he says house, we're going there. But anyway, can't remember where we went. But then we decided we would meet in the playroom because it was smaller. We had all kinds of things, and we did need to learn to play with toys. So we did that. And this is one of our pictures in the playroom. That was the playroom that was in my house. This little boy on the right, completely nonverbal. But when we went to Chuck E. Cheese, he could tell the girl what prize he wanted with his tickets. And she wasn't a special educator at all. I don't know how he did it. But they would be behind the glass and he would get his point across. In fact, he really did get his point across because he had a wonderful sense of direction. And at one point, he didn't want to go to Chuck E. Cheese. And he would sit behind me in the car. And if I turned toward Chuck E. Cheese, he'd start kicking in the car. So I knew he knew exactly where we were going. The young boy with the Rise shirt on is my grandson, and he came as a peer tutor. He's now a daddy. He has his own son who's a year old. So these were a little old, but that's when we had it. Now, there were at Chuck E. Cheese Pizza, and this is some of the things we do. That boy was a runner. So he would take one bite of pizza and then he'd start running around. And we didn't want that. You know, even though a lot of kids do that, if we start a pattern, it's harder to change. So we wanted him to sit down and eat the whole meal then. So Miss Deborah sits on the outside, it's harder for him to get out. So she can control that. We would do those sorts of things. And there's Rob and his mom in playgroup, and that was his birthday. Wonder what birthday that was. Do you know, Rob? No, I have no idea either. This is when we were too old to play. And do you see this young man over here? You know who that is? And we're too old, so now we're going to, where do we go?
That's Jack in the Box.
Jack in the Box, yeah. Why did we go to Jack in the Box?
Well, it was like, well, we would go Christmas shopping or Mother's Day shopping or Father's Day shopping back in the day. And so they said, okay, we've shopped. Now where do we eat? There's a Jack in the Box right down the road. There you go.
Yeah, and then we started it once and we haven't veered from that. That was probably 10 years ago.
Jeremy?
So we're still going to Jack in the Box.
Is that Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Jeremy. Now, here are the young adults who are here in social group because they were not teenagers anymore. And so I wanted to just quickly talk about the social skills and how we teach it. We teach social skills at the point of performance. We don't teach this people that this smiling face is happy and this is sad. We teach the skills where they need to happen because transfer is difficult anyway, and that's where you do your best learning. So we learn to wait in line at McDonald's. Even if we wanted the French fries, even if we were really, really hungry, we don't turn in line, we wait in line. So we teach all of these skills at the point of performance, not by memorizing expressions. And we build on successes. Well, you'll see in just a minute when they start to talk about the successes. When we're out in public, we're being watched and we know it. So we're on our best behavior. These are probably the only 4 people that were really thoughtful. When I lived in the condo, we knew what common areas were and they were quiet in the common areas, unlike anybody else. So I was really, really proud of them. But we know that we're being watched. And we learn when we enjoy what we're doing. We learn, I think everybody learns when they enjoy because you do it over and over. And the thing we all agree that we enjoy doing is eating. So we go out every weekend and we'll talk about that, right, John? When you have your turn. Good. And we learn functional skills. And I think this is one of the universals, that we all need to learn functional skills first. A functional skill is anything, if you can't do it yourself, somebody has to do it for you. So that may ring a bell for many of us, those are the functional skills. And we're learning functional skills in group, because a functional skill, if you want to eat out, is reading the menu, deciding what you want, ordering it nicely, asking, and Will showed me that. one day on his own, he said, "Excuse me," to the waitress, "my friend needs some more," whatever it was, you were asking for Mary. And I was so proud because he had learned. That is a functional skill. If he didn't do it, somebody else would have had to do it for him. So, we've had many experiences, and I'm just going to talk about these very, very shortly. Friends have come and then they've moved away, and that's been sad for us. Rob has gone and visited Mylin.
Microphone.
Thank you. Rob has gone and visited one of the girls. It was a wonderful girl, Mary's best friend in Mylin, right?
Right.
Right. And so he has visited her on his own in Buddha. Was that where she was?
Yeah.
There we have had some helpers married, and then we went to their weddings, and then we talked to them when they were in the hospital having their children. So we've gone through those things together. We had the Valentine's party, and I used to have a big Valentine's party with only one party a year, and it was everybody I knew. And Rob and the whole group would come, and the parents, and Rob would introduce them. And John, what did you do at the
I did the presidential trivia questions.
Yes, John likes the presidents a whole lot. He knows everything about the presidents. And he'd have a trivia question, and then he'd even bring the prize for the person.
Wow.
Just so you know that Valentine's party was held in Galveston at Ashton Villa. So, Juneteenth. Now your Valentine's party.
Okay, right, good. We've had graduations. Everybody has graduated. We've gone to the graduations. We've met parents. We've met extended family. We have gone to college. We have members who have been in college, and they'll talk about that. They have jobs. Two on the panel, if you can notice, they came in their work uniforms. John and Rob, and they'll tell you about that when they talk. We've gone on overnight trips to Austin. That was John's idea because he wanted to go to the presidential library. So we all went to Austin, and then we went to San Antonio. We had a great time there. We go to Galveston a lot. And we meet every other Saturday. We have a kind of, you'll see, we have a tradition for our meetings. We come and we each talk about the good things that have happened during the week, and then we end up by saying something nice about somebody in the room. And that is because we want to be positive. We learn through successes, and because it's hard. So that's how we've learned. But they've become masters at this, and I wanted to show you that right now. This is the best part. This is my friends and what they want to share with you. And we're going to start with John, okay? And John, you want to come up, or do you?
Sure, I'll come up.
Okay. Okay. And you're going to tell them about what you're most proud
Yes.
of. Right.
Well,
Over here.
what I'm most first of all, none of us would be here today if it wasn't for Dr. S.
Oh.
So I'm most proud of my mom and my group, and I've been working at I have a job at a YMCA in Sugarland, and I've been there for 11 years. And I first met Dr. S when I was 7, and I used to have like behavioral problems. Like I would get really mad, and I would begin to stomp and shout, say all sorts of things I don't mean. But we made up, but like especially like towards my mom. But we made up when we worked things out, right, Mom? And it was really hard for me after my dad passed away, because I was I was dealing with all this grief in my head, and I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do without him? So, and my mom and I got through it. So, and one more thing, had I not gone to some people with like autism can't do anything, like can't date or anything. Well, people think that, but had I not known that, I wouldn't have met my beautiful girlfriend Jessica. And so we were eating at funny story. So we were eating at Mary's favorite restaurant, Buffet King, and I had opened my fortune cookie on March 29th, which was a month from this date. Listen to what the fortune says. Remember, 1 month from this date, good things are going to happen to you. Coincidence, huh? And now I'll say something nice about Dr. S. Rob, because he and I have been best friends in group since we first met, and he and I go out on trips together. We just do like movies together, and I even invited him to spend Thanksgiving with him and his wife to spend Thanksgiving with us.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
And who's going to talk next?
Oh yeah, Mary, you want to come up or do you want to stay there? All right, everyone, this is Mary Dickinson.
Mary, you want to come around here so we can be on a video together? You're going to stand in front of Jessica Sheridan. Good. Okay, Mary, you want to tell them what your favorite thing in social group is?
My favorite thing is social group and my old schedule. When I grow up,
Okay.
I'll be older in the future.
And how old are you right now?
I'm 35.
Yes. And Mary did something very special. Do you remember when you sang?
I sang
What did you sing?
God Bless America
And do you remember when that was?
in Sealy.
In Sealy. Sealy High School at 9/11 had every student. There's another line. Oh,
Yes,
good, good.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just flip it on.
Okay. Is it? And you flip it on?
Flip it on.
Okay. Yeah, but I did it. When 9/11 happened, Mary, stay right here with me. Okay, you stay with me. When 9/11 happened, they brought every student. See, there was a small school district, and this is the story I get. Glenda, I hope it's right. They brought them all into the big auditorium at the high school and had Mary go up on the stage and sing God Bless America. Not a dry eye in the place. So, Mary has a beautiful singing voice, beautiful voice. And she's been a good friend for a long time and sang for us lots of times. And you were in the church choir, is that right, Mary?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Are you still in the church choir?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And what's your favorite thing to do with your mom at home?
Fold clothes.
Okay, you fold clothes. For a while, we had, people do a lot for us. So we thought each week about something we could do for somebody else. And Mary would fold clothes for her mom. And what else did you do for your mom?
Make
That's right.
my own bed.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
made your own bed up, right? And when you had Easter, you helped your mom cook?
Boiled eggs.
Uh-huh. And tell us about the eggs that you boiled. What did you do?
The white eggs.
Mm-hmm. They were
I
white.
colored them.
And what colors did you make them?
Pink, yellow, green, and blue.
And any more?
Purple,
Mm-hmm.
orange, and red.
Okay. Okay, good. And you help your mom make, what's your favorite thing to make, to cook?
A chocolate cake with cherry strawberry icing.
Yes.
And how do you make that? It's okay. You can tell us. How do you make it? How do you make the chocolate cake?
I decorated the cake
Uh-huh.
with jelly beans
Oh, really? Good for Easter?
for Easter.
Right. And Mary is very particular about the way she decorates. So when we cooked during social group, I guess, Mary would always do the cupcakes. She was a real master at that. Mary, who would you like to say something nice about?
William,
Okay. What do you think? What's nice about William? What do you like about him?
I like William because he's a good man and he comes to social group and he likes dragons, dinosaurs, Pokemon, Disney and Lego, and he helps me charge my phone,
Right,
and his favorite color is gold,
right. And he's your good
and
friend.
he is my best friend.
Great. Thank you, Mary.
Right. Before I get started, I would just like to say we were talking, Dr. Sheridan was talking about sameness. She says that every week. In that order. Because of comfortability. She's just so used to saying all those things about Will and listing all the things she knows he likes and just stuck with it.
Yep.
So I have been dealing with autism for around the same time as John. I got diagnosed early, and I was also a bit of behavioral, not very good at expressing myself. The way I described it to my dad was whenever I was having trouble speaking, it was like I had to close my eyes, and I was envisioning a miniature version of me inside my brain, trying to find every word that I knew and string them together into a sentence. And some words were way over there, and then the next word that was needed was way over there. So it was like I was rushing back and forth in this mini library thing in order to do that. And I kind of used that idea to help with one of the books that I wrote, because I eventually got much better thanks to Dr. Sheridan's guidance, and she talked about going to college. I have a bachelor's in creative writing from the University of Houston. And I've been published. So, then I also have a master's. Wait, I'll get to that. No, I also got my master's in social education from UH. I came here from work because I teach 8th grade U.S. history at T.H. Rogers right now. My students are very pleased with having me there because I'm very much in entertainment. For someone that was not very good at expressing, I became a theater kid. And actually, when I went to St. Pius for my high school, and I have the very distinctive honor of being the first freshman to ever have a leading role as Demetrius in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. So, yeah, I was always about entertaining. During the talent shows, I would do stand-up comedy. I wasn't very good at it because I have a different sense of humor. But I would do clean hip-hop as well because I said, hey, I want to get up on stage. I just like being on stage. I like performing and everything like that. So, but with all these successes, my biggest success, and John kind of alluded to it, is that you guys think that we can't date. Well, I got married. And that there's my wife. My wife, Ying, or her English name is Claire. That's how they know her, as Claire. She's from China. She's actually there right now in her hometown of Shanghai, or as they say, Shanghai. And so that's us on our wedding day on February 16th of 2018. So we've been married for 7 years. So I always tell people when I do my shows, if I can do it, anybody can do it, all right? So no matter what. So that's all I got to say about it. About myself, anyway. But I will say about Mary, actually, because Mary does try to be open, right? She would always, Johnson mentioned we were at Buffet King. Well, she likes to pick another place called Cafe East that she would pick it every single time. So I thought, okay, she likes buffets, so I'm like, let me find some other spot. So I found Feast, I found Buffet King, I found a hibachi, and I said, Mary, would you like to try this time? And she would say yes. She was willing to try new things, and if she didn't like it, she would say so, and we'd say, okay, that's fine with us. So I will now call on Will to speak next.
Okay, Will has had a hard day. You want to tell him what happened?
Yeah, well, today my mom asked me to go to Quest to do my blood work. Yeah, well, the traffic was against me. By the time I was there, I found out the hard way that if you're late by 5 minutes, they cancel your appointment. Yeah, so I had to make a new appointment myself for 11:30. Yeah, and
What time did you get there?
I got there like around, what was it? Oh yeah, 9:34.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and I'm really proud of Will for staying and not getting angry and leaving, staying, making the new appointment, staying through all of that, and coming here. And I'm just great. And you want to tell them about your mom goes to Galveston sometimes, right?
Yeah, my mom does total patrol when she goes to Galveston.
Yeah. And who do you stay with?
Oh, well, I actually stay by myself when she has to go there.
Right. And who cooks for you?
I do. Of course, my mom makes sure I have plenty of food.
Yeah. But when
Microphone.
did you run out of some food?
Well, I could just go and pick something up at the grocery store.
Yeah. So Will drives now, and I just have to tell that story about your driver's license. I know he doesn't want me to tell it, but I'm going to do it. Will loves animals, and he had a very precious dog who passed away. And wanted another dog. Yeah. And his mother said, "This is brilliant. You can get a dog on the way home from getting your driver's license. We'll stop after you get your driver's license. We'll stop and get the dog."
Yep, that was the deal.
Yeah. So you did it, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I had to take the test twice because the first time I did it, I was too slow for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it was my first time. I mean, I wanted to take this slow.
Yeah. You like him driving so slowly. So, yeah. Good. Thank you so much, Will.
I have to say nice about John, because when it comes to the president, he's a walking encyclopedia. Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thanks.
Come to the expert.
And now, we get to hear from the parents.
Microphone.
Okay. And I just want to read something before they come up. I worked with boys, and the social group knows about it because we all talk about our favorite things and what happened. And I consulted for a long time with the school district that had 2 boys who, when I went there, they were 16 each. They were not toilet trained. They were nonverbal. Both had autism, single mom. And the mom gave me this T-shirt, which was for her and for these parents. It says, "For all the parents who have had to wait longer to hear the first word, who spend more time in doctors' offices with their child than on play dates, who endure countless bad days and the stares from other people, for the parents who face special needs every day, we salute you all." And I salute these people. Come up and we'll go by same alphabetical order of children.
Linda's big Claudia. Thank you all so much for being here today. It's just wonderful to see this group. And before I came, I thought about what I feel is valuable for other people to know and what I wish my friends and family had known 30 years ago. And it's really important to think about the differences people have in terms of sensory integration and their difficulty with change. So things that bother people with autism are things that most of us don't have any trouble with. Maybe noise in a crowd, or a lot of people moving, or the windshield wipers going very fast on the car, driving a different way to McDonald's. So when you see a person with autism that may be having a lot of anxiety, it's most likely because they're dealing with something that stresses them that we don't even notice. And then of course the other thing too, and there's a lot of pressure on parents with children with behavioral problems, is that most traditional forms of discipline are not going to resolve these kinds of problems. A spanking, a timeout, doesn't help if the flickering lights are causing you to have a tantrum. So I think that's really important for family and friends to realize that when you're around someone with autism, what may look like a very spoiled brat is usually someone who's dealing with a very stressful situation. And I once heard a mother with autism do a play on It Takes a Village. And she said, if you have a child with autism, it takes a metroplex. And 28 years ago, we were very different people in our family. And we came to Dr. Sheridan, and she helped us, and she is definitely the mayor of our metroplex. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So much goes into all of this.
Good job, Mom.
Again, thank you all for being here, because the more people know, it helps us all when we're out and about. It has been a journey, and what I like to remember, and it's a continuing journey, and what I like to remember is every one of us, all of you, we all have a journey, and for most of us, it took a turn where we would not have chosen. And so we take a day at a time. We understand that there are people around us to help us through all these times. And we rely on family and friends, and particularly wonderful teachers for our children. And we were in a small school district out in Sealy. And at the time, my husband was going to start working in Georgia and subsequently in Canada. And so a lot of the times it was, the kids and me. And so we learned that we relied on other people, and it really helped us. And one thing I had to learn was to ask for help, which is something that a lot of us aren't very good at. I'm a nurse by training, so I was used to taking care of other people, not asking for help. And that has been something that I've learned. The other thing I'd like to mention is the effects on siblings. And Mary's the youngest of 4 children, and her brother and 2 sisters have been remarkable.
They are.
They love her with all their hearts. And I'm sorry, I'm such a weenie. But they have gone down a path. When Mary was initially diagnosed, 90% of my worry was about her and what was going to happen, and the other 10 to 150% was about her siblings and how this was going to alter their lives. I will say that they are different people now because they have learned so much growing up, and they have developed really big hearts for other people. And so when you see something in your life that you think there's not a silver lining, most of us have learned that there are silver linings. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to reiterate that Glenda and Ed have 2 wonderful daughters and a fantastic son. And one of their daughters has 1 child, and she's adopted 2 high-risk babies. It's because of the environment and the health. And that whole family has helped to raise those kids. So you were absolutely right. Talk about good luck.
Yeah, I'm a little different. My son, William, has always been my tech person and kind person, and he learned this mostly because he has a brother 17 months older who's more profoundly autistic with behaviors. And when I was dealing with him, my husband, who we were married married for 7 years, as I needed to take care of his brother and him, left and we divorced. And I realized what autism was, and I realized he was an adult autistic. He was brilliant. He could take anything apart and put it together. He could do computer stuff before anyone was doing it. Chase Bank in Texaco hired him to run teams. He couldn't read or write. He was dyslexic. He never could spell my name right. He was a good person, but when I had 2 sons with autism, which we later found out with William, but late, he didn't get attention and he acted out and he would do things where I had to call the police. So when we divorced, it was like I had one less autistic child. But all along, his brother was, like John was saying, because he couldn't communicate, he started talking when he was 2. He knew the names of all our horses and dogs and goats and chickens. And then suddenly I noticed he was quiet, and my mother, who has had children obviously, said, "You need to take him to be diagnosed." And I said, "For what?" She says, "I don't know, but he should be talking." And my pediatrician would say, "Oh, Einstein didn't talk, he was whatever, and he's a genius." So we took him and he got the PDD-NOS, non-specific, and he was getting Project Type in Katie, he was getting speech, he got early childhood, he got when he was 3 and 4, he was getting Cy-Fair's benefits because I was teaching in Cy-Fair. And all this time, 17 months behind, was William not speaking either as well. And it turns out he had they diagnosed him with aphasia, where he would think things out of order, and if he said them, they were out of order. So if he said something like, "I'll put this in my Williams room," he'll get his pronouns kind of out of order. And we went to playgrounds, we went everywhere, I took him everywhere I went. I was the single mom. And kids would come up to him and say, "Watch out for the ant pile." And he would say something back to them that they really couldn't understand, because he was saying it in the way he was thinking it, kind of out of order. And lots of speech therapy, and then we got him into the social group, and he became more of a person because we could communicate with him, and he wasn't just someone else in my family. Where Zachary sucked the air out of the room, we'd go somewhere at Christmas, his brother's name is Zachary, and or going out to eat or went to a movie. When Zachary was done, he wanted to go. He's 5'9", and he would walk out. And he was 5'9" when he was like 14. Wow. So we would have to leave. There was many movies we never saw the end of. There was many meals we choked down or didn't finish. And my brother, who doesn't speak to me right now, wasn't speaking to me even though he lived 5 miles away, because he didn't want to have to invite us to Christmas. Because he has 2 children who are brilliant. Those 2 children came to see us at Christmas, and they asked to be their trustees. Full circle. But he's my hero, and he will do anything he can, and if he can't, he'll figure it out. And he's someday going to be pretty independent. So I'm so proud of him.
Now you can see why these people are my heroes.
Yeah.
Temple Grandin said it beautifully. We may be different, but we're not less. In fact, she has a book. And she's written different but not less, and that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. We want to thank you again for coming and sharing this time with us and allowing us to share the talents and the gifts and the humanity of the people that we live with and love. Thank you.